Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn, and I am excited to be in your earbuds, in your speakers, hanging out with you today on the How to Film Weddings podcast. It's a big week. It's a big week for me. At the time of recording this, I am only a couple of days away from turning 40 years old. That's right, on October 30th, I will be 40. Into my 40s. Started shooting weddings when I think I was 22, and here I am 18 years later. A lot of stuff been going on, a lot of fun family things. Everyone in my family's birthday's in October. So I've got a big fun week doing some fun stuff with my brothers. But yeah, a new kind of chapter, turning 40, and 2024, 2025 has been so weird. So there's been a lot of contemplation, a lot of deep thinking and things like that. And so, I'm here. I'm going to be 40 this week. It's happening. So this is the last recording that I'm doing in my 30s. Wow. So I hope your fall season is going well if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. I hope your spring is going well if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. And I'm really excited about everything that's been going on in the How to Film Weddings community. Our Facebook group just passed 25,000 of you. What? Like, that's bananas. And then also our Instagram page, last I checked, is like 12 or 14 or 15 followers away from hitting that 10,000 follower milestone. And so a lot of things are happening, and then just a lot of positive feedback about what is happening in 2025. And it seems like we're getting out of this little bubble, this market shift, whatever we want to call it. And so a lot of good things are going on. And today I'm going to just dive into kind of my plan moving into this next chapter of my life and my business, going into my 40s, but also just a new mindset towards my wedding video and now photo business that I'm going to talk to you about in this episode. But first, before we get into any of that, I wanted to shout out Serge and the team over at bridegroomvideoo. Wow, they've taken over my edits, and I just sent the teaser and feature film to my first couple. They loved it. They sent me all kinds of heart and crying emojis. They really loved the film. If you want to check out the teaser, the feature film, you can head over to the John Bunn Films YouTube channel. And I've posted it over on my John Bunn Films Instagram as well. So you can kind of see what they do. Had a lot of questions about working with them. If you want any info, just head over to howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing. Or if you want to send me a DM about my experience, I would love to talk to you about it. A couple things about that. Before we get into today's episode, if you're wanting to outsource your wedding films, I think a lot of us don't realize just how creative and how taste-driven our films are. And if you are thinking you can just upload footage and tell an editor to make something that you would make, that is not a good outlook going into your relationship with outsourcing. For me, my goal is to give it to them and them get it to me about 80% of the way there on version 1. Then I can make a bunch of changes and give a lot of very good critique, feedback, so they can learn my style to get it to about 90 or 95% of the way there. And if they can do that, that saves me a week or 2 weeks of time. And from there, I can put the final touches on it, or I can have them edit one more version to get it exactly where I want. And so it's literally like for me having a team member in the room next door that is doing the pushing of the buttons for me, but following my creative vision. And it takes time with a new team, like a team member, to really get in the flow. And now would be a good time as you're getting into 2025 and your bookings to really think about if you need an outsourcing partner. Maybe it's not bridegroomvideoo, maybe it's Wedding Post House or Story Mix Media or Wanderlust Films. There's a lot of different people on our outsourcing list, different prices, different quality, different things like that. But if you're tired of being in backlog, this is something that could really help you. And if you're not outsourcing wedding films, what can you outsource? What could you look at in 2025? And so I wanted to shout out Bride and Groom before we get into this week's episode, because it has saved me so much time by hiring them to edit my wedding films. So thank you, Bride and Groom. Head over to howtofilmweddings/outsourcing to check them out, or our other approved outsourcing partners. Let's get into the 2025 plan and what I'm thinking about. As I have mentioned in a few episodes, 2024 for me was a bit of a dumpster fire. I had a lot of 22 and 23 couples that booked me for 2024 before what I would say like the bubble burst in the wedding video industry for me. And I had a lot of bookings, but then they kind of dried up, and I hadn't had a booking for like 9 or 10 months, it seemed like. And fall of 2024 was looking very bleak. I've talked a lot about the bookings that I've got on the last few episodes, but it kind of shook something in me. And we've been talking a lot about 2024 being a dumpster fire. And a lot of people, when we did the world's largest survey of wedding filmmakers, said 2025 was also looking down. And so I'm a data guy. I like to analyze data. And the majority of people that filled out our survey, there was about 800 or 790 or so of you that filled that out, said the bookings were down in 2024 and they were still down in 2025. But I have since started hearing people saying 2025 is really picking up. And that's been the same for me. But it didn't just happen because, I'm sitting here and now I've got all these bookings. Something shifted in me fundamentally that changed my mindset. And I'm wanting to kind of talk into that for my 2025 season. In the last week, I have booked a wedding for Tuscany, and I have booked a wedding proposal for video and for photo in Guatemala, and another shoot potentially in Guatemala that I'll get into in a second. I booked another wedding in Oklahoma and one in Georgia and one in Arizona. And this has all happened because of a mindset shift. And so I want to just make a point that I see things are just different now. The market itself has changed. There has been a shift in the market. And we've analyzed this a little bit here on the podcast where I think somewhere, and it's not science, it's not data, but I think that once we get reports back with what happened in 2024, I think about 25% of the market has just been cut away when it comes to people investing dollars into weddings. I think that people have lower budgets. I think people are more worried than ever about spending, especially in 2024 with the election year, uncertainty, wars, all the stuff that's going on. And it's almost like the stock market losing 25% of its value in one day, like a bubble kind of burst over the last year or year and a half. And I would say that a low end, 25% of the market has just dissipated. And we don't have real-time stats like you would with the stock market or things like that. But all of the reports are pointing to the fact that there's just less of a market. And what happens when markets are down a lot of times is the people that are new in their career and people that are old in their career retire, quit, fall off, and people start finding other work. You have to have work. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you've had to stop doing this full time. Maybe you've had to add something else. But when we look at that data and we think about it, what has happened is that the fundamental industry has just shifted. It's a different set of market analysis. There's a different set of couples and different mindset. And if we don't realize that a change has happened, I don't think we're going to be setting ourselves up for success moving forward. So after I realized this market had shifted, I changed my mindset. And you also have to add in there that there are a lot of people doing smaller, more intimate events. There are a lot of people that are hiring content creators instead of wedding filmmakers. And so there are more people educating wedding filmmakers, which is great. But the market itself, we're not in a similar position to some of the other wedding vendor types. And although most of my couples book me as one of their first vendors, the majority of people I talk to, they are getting the low end of that totem pole. They are not getting the first dibs on couples. They're kind of a last minute decision if the budget allows. And there's just a lot of people saying, you know what, I'm just going to have somebody film it on their phone. I'm going to have a content creator. That's what I can afford. At least I'll have the memories. And you look at different generations, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the millennials, all that kind of stuff. The people that are getting into the wedding age have seen their parents now, or like their older siblings, have the perfect curated 5-minute film, curated feeds. And they're like, I don't want that. I want something raw. I've seen a lot of people start bringing like handy cams to weddings, or handing a dad cam over to the wedding party and adding just real, people just want more authentic, real, non-produced things from what I'm seeing. But a lot of people are saying, my wedding isn't about this big showing off everything kind of event. It's more about the people and just the raw moments. And so the more you know your market, the better. And why I'm rambling about this is because the more we understand what's going on to the whole industry, the more we realize maybe there's not something wrong with us, but maybe our mindset needs to change. And I was talking to Sam Jacobson about this. I've been talking to Nick about this. I've been talking to lots of people, and some people haven't been hit by this storm. Some people have. But if you're not in a position where you're paying attention to this and all you're thinking is, well, I'm making good wedding films, why aren't people reaching out to me? Or I have good branding, why aren't people reaching out to me? You might be doing yourself a disservice. And what I found with myself is I'm full-time how to film weddings, and I don't need the money from John Bunn Films to sustain my family or anything. And I've moved into being a full-time educator, but I still want to shoot 5 to 10 weddings a year to stay relevant, to be creative. I want to be able to give you real life scenarios of things I'm doing. And so I've built a brand, and I don't want to let that go, and I don't intend on letting it go. And so this 2 years ago, I kind of took a sabbatical. I didn't want a bunch of weddings, and I did 3 events, and that's it. And that was 2023. Did a couple out of the country and 1 here, or 2 in the States. And so maybe 4 of them in 2023. And I had booked 4 or 5 already for 2024. And I got into this year and realized, whoa, it's been a minute since I've really had a lot of bookings, a lot of inquiries, but a lot of people saying they couldn't afford it. I'm forwarding the inquiries to a lot of my friends. And then once everything kind of, the dust settled from what was going on in my business, I really started to realize, as I was forecasting for fall and then 2025, is I got to change some stuff up. Like, the market is different and things have changed. And through this, there's been a lot of pressure. There's been a lot of stress. And I think a lot of you might be feeling that way. But to me, it got me to a place where I kind of shook off all the cobwebs in my mind regarding John Bunn Films and helped me recenter. But there was a lot of pressure to start getting bookings. And I love running my business. I'm good at the business side. I'm good at making networking and making connections. And as I've explained in some of the other episodes, I went to work really, leaning in towards my planner relationships, and got a booking for later this year. The same planner booked me a big wedding for next year. I'm reaching out and just putting more on social media, 3-4 posts a week. I'm showing up in my stories and all these different things. Kind of within this pressure, there's been kind of a beauty, and it's helped me to really feel like I did in the early days of my business. And I had gotten kind of on autopilot, kind of comfortable, saying, hey, my networking, my relationships get me 8 or 10 weddings a year. And that started to slowly dissipate and started to really fade out. And I was like, wait a second, I haven't been really putting myself out there. I haven't really been hungry for bookings or letting people know that I want to come do weddings. I've just kind of put that on autopilot. And so there was this beauty in the pressure of doing, feeling this pressure in my business. I don't want John Bunn Films to have no weddings. I don't want it to fail. I don't want to not be able to be creative and have that creative outlet. So it got me to really recenter. And I want to spend the next portion of this episode kind of talking about what it did to me and how I have changed my plan for 2025. But first, I wanted to mention to you all our mastermind group. Nick and I have been having lots of chats about changing up the structure of our mastermind group for 2025. If you don't know what it is, we've done this for 4 years already, a year-long program designed to help you go further, faster, build community, build relationships. We walk through a curriculum teaching you everything we know to build our businesses but at the same time, it's a live aspect. We're asking questions. You can see the other members. We're getting together with a retreat at the end of the year. And it's been this community. And now we have almost 200 alumni that have been through it. And we still have an active Facebook group, and we talk and we grow. But if you're in this position where you're like, I have to survive in my business, you might consider heading over to howtofilmweddings.com/mastermind and getting on our wait list. We plan to open the doors in late January, early February for the 2025 class. But Nick and I are looking at kind of throwing out the playbook and changing up the entire structure of how it works. So even if you've done Mastermind before, it might be worth in getting on that wait list just to see. We have learned a lot over the years. We have honed in on exactly what we want to teach, the kinds of guest speakers we want to have, and we're going to be giving you more details on that as we get closer to November and December. So be sure to check out howtofilmweddings.com/mastermind. Now, like I was saying before, in 2025, I have a new plan. The first thing that I have changed is I'm hungry. I want to grow. I want to make move. I want to take action. I want to do things. And I've been doing that by sending DMs to planners that I know and sending text messages and getting on phone calls. And I met a new planner at an event and I said, hey, let's hop on a Zoom call this week. We chatted, we talked. I'm following up and just sending messages. Hey, do you have any couples? But my plan for 2025 is not that I'm just willing to lower my prices, but I keep saying this on the podcast that motion creates emotion. And if your business, if the flame is kind of dwindled and it's kind of going out, you've got to get back into that hunting mentality, that hungry mentality of, I got to go out and get some work. I got to go get in front of people. I got to go make some motion so some emotion will happen. And that's exactly what I've been doing. The weddings that I've been booking, I've been thinking, how can I get the most out of these weddings? So one of the things that happened this last little bit was that I got an inquiry about a proposal in Guatemala. Someone saw the film I did a couple years back and has now hired me to go take photos and videos of their proposal, and then the next day do a story session. And what I did though is I gave them a price of $4,000 plus travel. And you might be saying, well, that's really low compared to what you usually do. And yes, it is. But the work that I'm going to have to do is going to be super easy. It's very cheap to get there for me. And so I'm going to profit about $2,500 to go out for a couple days. And then I'm going to take an extra couple days to just be there and maybe do some other things. And so what I did, because this is on like a Tuesday and Wednesday, is I reached out to the planner that I worked with last time and said, do you have an event on Friday? Or that I could stay longer for. And she said, I do have an event on Friday. So she's working with them as we speak to see if they want a video. I don't care if they pay me a little, a lot, but if I can film a little bit and have some more FaceTime with that planner, as well as some more footage to put on my reel, like that's me telling my audience, oh my goodness, this guy's in Guatemala. He's taking photos now. He's taking video here. He's got another wedding in Guatemala. And that is that motion being created. It's going to create emotion. The same thing happened with the booking I got in Italy. I'm looking for opportunities to say, I'm already here. What else can I get out of this? How else can I be, witty? How else can I get more footage, more photos? And if that wedding in Guatemala doesn't work out, I'm going to see if there's a couple that I can take photos of. I'm going to see if there's a couple I can take video of, just getting more and more footage there in Guatemala so I can show people that I travel and I like to go there. And that's something that just across the board I've been doing, reaching out to planners and saying, hey, do you need anybody to film any details of any weddings you have coming up? I just want people to remember that I exist. I want to keep showing up. And that's the thing that I think a lot of us don't do. We think, I don't have any weddings, so I can't show up, or I don't have a good personality, or I don't like my face on screen. For me, I have to get over that and I have to get past that so that I can take those next steps to book those things. And by staying in front of people, I'm not just diminishing the entire value of my brand, but if I can hook up some planners for a little bit cheaper, or if I can give away some extra footage or something like that, then that's going to create that motion that's going to keep me in front of people and give me things to post in 6 or 8 or 9 months. And so the more that you can think about that as your plan, what can you do in 2025 to create that motion in your business? There's a lot of things you can do working on your business, but to me, what I needed to focus on is the front-facing side of things. More footage of me, more photos of me, more footage of weddings, more posts on Instagram. All those things have been really, really important. And now I already have 5 or 6 extra bookings for 2025. And every one of those is more marketing that I now have. 2025 to me is a gap year. I think that in 2025, the market will come back a lot. Again, I'm not an analyst, but from what I'm seeing, I think that a lot of people will go out of business. And I think a lot of people, the ones that adapt, are going to be the ones that really start to fill their schedule for 2026. And that's why I mentioned our mastermind group earlier, is because I think that if we can band together with community in 2025 and really dig into some of those things that we're not comfortable doing or don't want to do, those things are going to be what propels us into 2026. Because people book their wedding videos a year in advance sometimes, or 18 months in advance. And if you're not staying in front of people right now, you could be missing out on bookings that you would get not even only in 2025, but in 2026. And the motion creates emotion. So what are you doing right now to push your brand forward every week? Are you posting on social media? Does it speak to your ideal buyer? Does it give something educational or informative or entertaining? Or are you just randomly going through your life wondering why your business isn't succeeding? That's something that you could probably do pretty well in 2019 through 2022. But in 2024, I don't think that's as easy unless you're just super cheap for what you do. And that's not a road that most of us want to go down. And so if you're wanting a 2025 to be great and a 2026 to be great, you have to have a plan. How are you going to stay in front of people? And another thing I want to talk about before too long on this episode is, with all this pressing and with all this shaking, it really got me it got me to a place where it's like, I don't care what people think. I need bookings. My family needs money. Like, I need to go take care of my family. But then my wife, Heather, and I were talking, and she knows that I've just been taking photos for a really long time. On our trips that we take, on the travel that I do, I just have never felt confident enough to say I'm doing photo. And I've prayed about it. I've talked to a lot of friends about it, and I've just really come to grips with the fact that I need to add more things in my life that get me creative and give me joy. And so this last weekend on my Instagram page, I shared some photos from the first photo shoot that I did about 3 weeks ago with a couple. And I have another one scheduled for tomorrow as I record this. And I've just been slowly putting the word out that I do photo. I have been digging into some courses and to some presets and some Lightroom things, and just getting out of my comfort zone, because I want to open that up as a revenue stream. And I want to be able to do it in a way that gives me joy and creativity. And for me, it's like, I know there are people that are going to judge me and think, oh, John's just trying to figure out how to make it. He's out of money. He's like, and I almost just was like, I'm not doing photo. But for me, I knew that in 2025, I wanted to push myself and try to get 5 or so photo weddings. And so I've started to slowly put that out there, put the word out there, and people are noticing it, and people are DMing me, and people are asking for photo shoots. And I changed my Instagram profile to wedding videographer and wedding photographer. And that's something for me that I'm doing in 2025, is letting myself be creative, letting myself explore and play and have fun and have joy. And that's just really important, I think, so to me as a creative. For the longest time, I've kind of just been like, video, I'm doing it well, I'm teaching it, but at the same time, like, I'm not just being so pushed by it creatively. And so not only with photo am I going to do things to get creative, but with video too, I'm really looking at how I can get outside of my comfort zone. And what I'm trying to do is to really just push the boundaries of what I know and how I shoot and how I can get. And so there's these different things where it's like I've changed my mindset towards bookings and going out and getting them, but then also what kinds of things do I want to do when I'm shooting? How can I be extra creative? What can I do that nobody else is doing? And I feel like I'm just, as I'm turning 40 and turning the page in this part of my life and turning the chapter or whatever, it's like, I want to do photos now. I want to do video too. And I want to do both. And I want to serve people well. And I want to be able to report back to you what I'm learning. And for me, it's an exciting step. And I just think a lot of us kind of just sit back and wait and don't take action. And so for me, do I know how to color grade photos or whatever as good as I need to yet? Nope. Do I know how to take the photos as great? Nope. But what I've been doing is saying, hey, I'll do a free session, or you pay me a couple $100, or I'm getting practice, and I've purchased some presets and some courses, and I've done photo stuff for a long time, used Lightroom for a long time, but I'm learning and growing and taking new steps. And so what can you do to be learning and growing? Maybe that's our mastermind group. Maybe that's another course or a workshop, different things like that. But if you're just kind of sitting back, I would ask you to like zone back in real quick and really think, what can you do to be taking action steps? Not just listening to a podcast, but like, what can you do this week to take your business further? What if 1% better at the end of this week, what would your business look like? What one practical thing could you do? Because if you're not hungry, you're not going to be able to survive in the 2025 market. Survive in 2025. Oh, that's so cheesy and so good. But if you aren't hungry, you're not going to be able to survive. Like, you have to figure out what that looks like. As I mentioned last week, there's a difference between being hungry and then coming across as like real salesy or really thirsty, really just anything I can do to get money. I need money. I'll do everything. I'll promise you the world. There's a fine balance of tension between that. And so don't just go crazy. And so as I kind of wrap up, like, the things that I'm thinking about now are different than they were in 2023. I'm trying to be a little more crafty. I'm trying to be a little more witty. And so when like the couple reached out, or the groom reached out about me taking photos in Guatemala, I said, do you need video, or do you need video and photo? And he said, oh, I didn't know you did photo. I'd love you to do both. And they added more money to do photo. And I'm going to be able to use their photos to then market what I do. And just having that door open, I'm now talking to that planner in Guatemala and saying, hey, do you have any couples that would be willing to take photos on that Friday? Do you have any weddings on that Friday? Do you know anybody else that has weddings on that Friday? I'm making the most out of every single thing that I do. I'm squeezing all the juice out of the lemon. Everything that I can, I'm doing. Everything that I can do, I'm doing it so that I can move my business further. And we are in a new normal. We are in a new market. There are other things. Maybe you need to add content creator to what you offer. Maybe you need to change your packages in 2025. Maybe you need to be part of a community. But just sitting there and waiting for things to happen is not a good strategy. Hope is not a strategy. What can you be doing today to take yourself in 2025 to where you want to be? What would future you call you and tell you to do? Are you willing to put in that work for the pain now so you don't have to feel it later? So my 2025 plan is to build, to be hungry, to take action steps, to add photography, to just keep going, keep being creative, and weathering the storm that I think will let up and is starting to let up. And I think a lot of us are seeing that glorious sunrise after the storm, or that rainbow after the storm. And if you can hold on, and if you have a plan and a strategy and a community to help you, I think you can not only survive, but I think you can thrive. And so as we close up this week's episode, I have to mention one more time that our mastermind group, it's almost here. It's almost 2025, and you need it more than ever. So head over to howtofilmweddings.com/mastermind. Check it out. Let us know what you think. If you have questions, shoot us a message. And that's the last thing I'm going to say today is, if you're still listening to this, thank you. head over to our Instagram page and just send me a DM saying you're still listening to this. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you like these episodes. Nick and I will be back together for some episodes very soon. A couple of you have been asking where he's been at. He's been diving deep into our YouTube channel. We have a new channel, and he's been killing it creating tutorials. If you don't know about that, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to everybody that makes this possible. We love you. This community wouldn't happen without you. So thanks for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you.